Romans 2, verse 12 to 29 continues Paul's argument that both Jew and Gentile stood guilty under the Old Covenant system, not because God's law was defective, but because humanity failed to keep it perfectly. The passage exposes the weakness of relying on outward religion, possession of the law, or physical circumcision as grounds for righteousness before God. Paul begins by saying that those who sinned without the law would perish without the law, and those who sinned under the law would be judged by the law. The Gentiles did not possess the written covenant given through Moses, yet they still had an inward awareness of right and wrong. Their conscience either accused or excused them. Meanwhile, Israel possessed the written commandments, the temple system, the covenants, and the ceremonies, yet failed to walk in true obedience. This section reveals that merely hearing the law never produced righteousness. The law demanded perfect obedience, but it could not impart life. Israel took pride in being the nation entrusted with divine revelation, but Paul dismantles confidence in religious privilege. Possessing the scriptures did not make them righteous any more than possessing a physician makes a sick man healthy. The issue was never lack of information, but the condition of the heart. Paul addresses the Jew directly, describing how Israel saw itself as a guide to the blind and a teacher of the ignorant. Yet the nation that taught against theft stole, the people who condemned adultery committed adultery, and those who despised idols dishonored God in other ways. The result was that the name of God was blasphemed among the nations because of Israel's hypocrisy. The Old Covenant exposed sin but could not remove it. Its sacrifices reminded the people continually of failure. The law functioned as a witness against human effort and self-righteousness. Every commandment revealed humanity's inability to attain righteousness through performance. Paul then addresses circumcision. Circumcision had value only if the law was perfectly kept. If the law was broken, physical circumcision became as meaningless as uncircumcision. This overturned the confidence many had placed in external covenant signs. The true issue was never the outward mark in the flesh, but the inward reality of the heart. The prophets had long anticipated this truth. Moses spoke of the need for circumcision of the heart, and the prophets promised a new covenant in which God would write his law within his people. Paul shows that this promise was fulfilled not through national identity or fleshly distinction, but through the work of the Spirit. A true Jew, Paul says, is not merely one outwardly. True circumcision is inward, performed in the heart by the Spirit rather than by the letter. This points to the transition from the Old Covenant order to the New Covenant reality established through Christ. The outward system of temple, sacrifice, ritual purity, and ethnic distinction belonged to an age that was fading away. God was forming a people defined not by physical descent from Abraham, but by participation in the life of Christ. This passage also anticipates the coming judgment upon the Old Covenant world. Israel possessed great privilege, yet rejected the righteousness God revealed through his Son. The destruction that eventually came upon Jerusalem demonstrated the end of that covenant age and confirmed the passing away of the old order centered in the temple and the law. Paul's argument throughout Romans is not that God abandoned his promises, but that those promises reached their fulfillment in Christ. Righteousness is not attained through law-keeping, religious effort, or outward identity. It is revealed as a gift from God. The Spirit accomplishes inward transformation that the letter of the law could never produce. Romans 2, 12 to 29 strips away confidence in external religion and points to a righteousness that comes from God himself. It reveals the failure of the Old Covenant system to perfect the worshiper and prepares the reader for the revelation of God's righteousness apart from the law, fulfilled in Christ and received through faith.